TakeTurns.com. 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 TakeTurns.com.
Hello everybody and welcome to another Wolcen build guide for patch 1.0.16.0. This time in English for all the international viewers and for the toxic players who want to laugh at my build. Feel free buddy, this one is called the Fire Phantom. In your face, let's go. Alright boys, let's talk about the attributes. For my personal taste, I put every single point into toughness because I really hate dying. And furthermore, I have enough ferocity from all my equipment so I can dish out lots of damage and I have no issue at all. Since this is not a tanky build per se, we are a little bit squishy at stages, especially in boss fights. That's why all in toughness is the way to go, at least for me. Secondly, I don't use any health potion, so we have a little bit of a willpower issue if we do not take certain items into consideration, and that's why I have double willpower bottles, and therefore it's safe for me to put everything into toughness because then I don't need a healing bottle, okay? Somebody asked me in the comments, hey please show the stats page, so here it is. You can compare these stats with your stats in case you are interested in. Nothing fancy going on, of course high resistances, which is a must-have, otherwise we are too squishy. Especially in the end game we have lots of burn chance because this build heavily revolves around the fire damage, so here are the stats in case you are interested in. Okay, then I would say we switch to the active skills. As I said before, this build does not rely on the mark of impurity. If you want to add this skill or if you want to use the trial belt, oh my god, this build does insane amount of damage and it's super fun to play, but I will leave it out for now, okay? So let's start with our first skill, which is called Anomaly. The Anomaly has some pretty cool bubbles I want to activate. First of all, this one. So this skill deals damage to enemies when they are pulled into the vortex. So this means every time the skill pulses, you see these pulses, it deals damage. This is very good. Then we want to increase the circle a little bit to have more enemies affected by it. Then the skill duration is extended, which is pretty straightforward. Then this one is very important for me, so enemy will be sucked in multiple times. And this one is pretty cool because you can cast the skill twice. So it looks like this. If you have then two on top of each other, it's absolutely insane what this skill can dish out for damage. So this one is a little bit negotiable. I do not know if this critical chance 25% does more damage compared to, let's say, this average damage 20%. I did not do the math, so if you have more insights, please let me know. I'll go for this setup as of now. Another item worth noting is the Aether Jump, as this is our movement skill and I have configured it like so. There are some good items and some, let's say, unnecessary items. This is one of the unnecessary one, as the stasis chance basically comes from another skill we are using, but I just have it there. And another item worth noting is that we have the double range increase. This gives us the possibility to go quicker through the dungeons, and quicker is better. Cooldown reduction, pretty straightforward, I would say. This is a break-free option, so if you are in trouble like stunned or anything else, you can just teleport it away, which is pretty nice. This one is our movement speed. So after we have been teleported, then we have a little increase of movement speed. Like I said, quicker is better. And the kicker is basically this one, as this will increase the casting speed score. And we have only spells, so all the animations of all of our skills we are using, even Infinity Blades animation, is a little bit quicker if we have this bubble activated, okay? Of course, you can configure your own Aether Jump, but I would recommend this setup. Next up is the Lightbringer. If you have the trial belt, then you should keep the Lightbringer. If you don't have the trial belt and you want to have Mark of Impurity, then you should swap the Lightbringer with the Mark of Impurity. But I really like the Lightbringer because it's a very underrated spell, because it is first off a little teleport, it is crowd control, it buffs you, it's really handy. And I have configured my Lightbringer like so. So this is let's say an increase of the charge. So if you pressed, or if you keep the button pressed, you can see it charges and the area gets a little bit bigger. So if you use this node, then the charge is a little bit quicker. That's nice to have. Then when landing, this skill leaves like an area of effect, which deals damage over time. You can see this here. This is the damage over time area. Pretty handy, and the damage is not too bad. And this is very important, so you can stun enemies and you can directly break the shield of champions or bosses. That's very cool. So what you could do potentially, you can put an Anomaly and then wait until the enemies are sucked in, and then charge your Lightbringer up and boom, you can stun them all. That's pretty cool. What do we have here? I want to talk about this one. This gives you all resistances per enemy hit, and this is very significant. So you can bump up the resistances until the maximum, or up to the maximum, which is 90%, if you hit enough enemies. That's very, very cool. This adds a lot of ailment chance. Look at this. We have 7.5% ailment weakness chance. If we activate this, we have a 100% chance, and this is a very good synergy with our Kabbalist in the passive node we will talk about later on. So this, I would say, is a must-have. This one, again, I did not do the math. I do not know if the average damage 40% is maybe not as good as this explosion radius or any other damaging skill. I don't know. If you are short on willpower, you could maybe go for this one, which gives you more willpower per enemy hit. I mean, that's up to you, but I would say these ones are must-haves and this item is negotiable. Okay. Now we must move on to Tear of Etheliel, which is a major damage dealer in our build. As I told you before, we want to have fire damage because this build heavily is focused around the fire damage, so this node is an absolute must-have. Then we have cooldown reduction 2 times. This is pretty cool because you can cast this skill 3 times before the first one expires. So we have one here, you have one here, and you have one here. So we have 3 Tears of Etheliel active running. This is pretty cool, so that's why I have double cooldown. Again, this critical damage 25% could be swapped out against anything else. But again, I did not do the math. The willpower cost is very handy because we always run out of willpower. And that's basically it. I use this as well because this converts the direct damage to, let's say, a damage over time, which does over time more damage compared to this direct damage. And I don't like really the delay. That's also something, it's a personal preference. Look, I don't like to wait 1 second and then I can only cast one. I really don't like that. So if I activate this, I can spam this ability and have 3 rain showers running at the same time, which is pretty cool, and I have lots of damage over time. Okay, so that's how I set up my tier. Plague Burst, another great source of damage, and I have configured my Plague Burst like so, and the reason is, for instance, I converted the toxic damage into fire damage, as again this build is built around fire damage. then this is pretty straightforward. We have a bigger radius of the, let's say, ring, the area of effect ring. Then we have critical damage increase, which is nice. And then we have this one, which allows us to have a little buff so that we have a greater ailment chance. This is negotiable as well as this one. You could maybe swap this out for this node, so you can cast this one, let's say, at the cursor's location, but I personally prefer to have the ring of fire around my character. This is pretty nice. This is the explosion, but the real kicker of this skill is these clouds. So every time the enemies die in our ring, they leave a little cloud, and everything is full of clouds, which is not good for the frame rate, but very good for the damage. So this is the kicker, don't leave this out, okay? And this is quasi, wollte ich schon sagen, ne? This is everything for the Plague Burst. If you have any more questions, please let me know in the comments. We move on to the next skill. For all the people out there who want to use the Mark of Impurity, there are some skill choices we can make. This is the setup I have for my personal Mark of Impurity, but you can of course swap that with other nodes. I would say if you use the trial belt, this is the maximum damage you can get out of it. If you cast this thing by yourself because you don't have the trial belt, I would maybe go for this option, as this automatically spreads the mark to other enemies. But if you use the trial belt, I would go for this setup for maximum damage. The last active skill I want to talk about is Infinity Blades, and we have two options here. So this setup shows the option if we do not have the trial belt, so we can pop this shadow damage here. In case you do have the trial belt, you could potentially go for those two nodes, which are pretty nice to have. But since we don't have the trial belt at our disposal, I'll pop this shadow damage here. A very interesting node is this one, as this says as long as we have Force Shield, we do tons of more damage. And if you check out the numbers, we have 51k. If I deactivate this node, I drop by a significant amount, which is pretty shitty. So we want to keep this node. And if we have a little sneak peek at the passive nodes with this Faith Leech, we'll make sure that we always get our Force Shield back instead of health, okay? This was of course stupid, we want to go here. So this one is a must-have. Those two nodes, they will replenish our willpower, so each time we kill or critical hit an enemy, we will regain our willpower, and trust me, you will be low on willpower with this build, so take these nodes by all means. And what do we have left? We have some little minor buffs. I think this one is a bit tricky because it says that we have a little summon when we activate this skill, and in the passive nodes again, if I level up, I will use this point from the Plague Bringer, so each time our summon dies from the Infinity Blades, we can pick up a green health globe, which gives us our poison globe, and it will give us 30% more damage. I'm not sure if this works, other YouTubers could not confirm this, but I'll leave it there because I can. Let's talk about the items. As I mentioned before, there's not a single unique item required for this build. However, if you have specific unique items like the trial belt or these Veiled Eclipse pants, it makes your life much easier and the damage is going through the roof. Yes, it does. So let's have a look. Why are these pants so effective? As you can see, we have our Infinity Blade skill, and when I cast it, it consumes willpower and it builds up rage. No, that's bad. We don't want that. And if we convert our damage to shadow damage and we equip these pants say that shadow-based spells use rage instead of willpower. So with these pants and our Infinity Blade set to shadow damage, if I cast it, you can see it doesn't consume any willpower. Nothing. I can cast that instantly. And this is absolutely nice. If you are in front of a boss and you have nothing else to cast because there's no willpower, you can spam at least the blades. It's really, really handy. And in combination with those two items, you can even recharge your willpower with this skill. But unfortunately, you would need these pants. To be honest, you don't need them. If you have a double, let's say, willpower bottle, you're good to go. If you have the pants, you can swap out one willpower bottle with a health bottle to have a better source of healing. Let's have a look at the items in more detail. So I've prepared a little words document so you can check out what to look for. If we start with a helmet, it's a heavy helmet and it should have all resistance score as a flat value, and in best case on top of that we have a percentage of the all resistances, as well as percent damage, transfer time reduction, ferocity for more damage, and a cooldown reduction would be very nice. And as far as the gem is concerned, we use this Alexandrite, or how this is pronounced, I don't know, in the defensive 3 socket to get the all resistance score. Okay, so this is what you should look out for the helmet. The chest piece is also a heavy chest piece, so we have basically the same stats we want to have like on the helmet. We have the cooldown reduction, we have the ferocity, we have the plus damage, all resistance 2 times as flat value and as percentage, and we have the same type of gem 3 times. For the boots, that's the last heavy piece. We want to have again all resistance as a flat value, not the percentage value. So because of that I want to have the movement speed, because you know I like to be quick. Then we have damage as a flat value, transfer time reduction would be very nice, ferocity for more damage, and a critical chance score. The shoulders and the gloves, all of them, all 4 pieces, they all have or should have ideally the same stats, which are rage and willpower cost decrease, because we need to keep an eye on our willpower management, spellcasting speed, as I told you, for the shorter animation duration, health, ferocity, pretty obvious, critical chance score because crit is always good, and we have the flat value in percent. I found one piece which matches that criteria, something like this. Okay, for the ring you really should look out for the steel ring, as this archetype of ring gives us the critical chance damage as percentage. And what would be ideal if we could have fire damage on the ring, because we deal lots of fire damage and we want to deal more fire damage. Fire damage percent would be very nice. Of course crit, because crit is always good, and elemental damage on top of that. And as far as the gem is concerned, we have again the same type of gem we use in the helmet and the chest, but this time in the support 2 socket. For the amulet we have the Omnistar amulet because it gives us plus, I don't know, a value of all the attributes we have, and ideally it has fire damage percent, critical damage, and elemental damage. This would be very nice. I forgot the pants. The pants, I would say, have almost the same stats as the other rogue items, but in this case we have the maximum health gem socketed in order to have a little bit of health. We have movement speed on the rogue pants, which is nice, and cooldown decrease. That's also very handy because I like to spam out more skills. Okay, as far as the weapon is concerned, as you can see, I have a one-handed sword, and the ideal attributes would be the transfer time reduction. We have the burn chance because we deal lots of fire damage, as you already know. Crit is always welcome, we know that. Elemental ailment chance score in order to have more stacks on the, or to have a better chance to get the stacks on the enemies. That's very welcome. Stun duration is optional. I'll have it on this sword, it's okay, but that's not a must. And we use the Ember in the offensive 2 slot in order to get ether damage on spells. And we do not deal any physical damage. Look, my weapon has 41 to 71, it's really low, but we don't care about the physical stats at all, or physical offense stats. For the catalyst, you should check that the catalyst has minus 50% transfer time reduction, because there are some catalysts which have different values. For instance, this one has 53%. There are other ones which have much more. This one has 60%. That's not very good, so you should really check that you have the 50%. Then of course fire damage, spell damage percent as a whole would be very nice. Transfer time reduction, spell casting speed to significantly reduce the casting animation, and then we have critical damage again, and we want to have the same type of Alexandrite, or how this is pronounced, in the support 2 socket in order to have again this critical spell chance. Okay, this sums up the items, so I would say let's quickly go over the passive skills, and then we want to see this build in action. I really don't like to talk about the passives because there are so many of them and there's so much room for discussions which items to pick and which to leave out. So let's get it over with quickly. Of course, I will provide a link to this Wolcen universe page so you can build all the things in peace without me jumping back and forth. Okay, let's get started. Of course, not all items I will talk about are mandatory. Some of them are optional, like this one I took all of the cooldown reduction nodes because I really like to have a low cooldown, so you could skip these ones if you want, but I like it. So we'll start with the soldier tree, which is a classic because the soldier tree gives us the opportunity to get more cooldown, but more importantly to get this wild card, which is a critical chance score, and we do want to have crit for our willpower regeneration and of course for damage. Pretty straightforward. Then we have this assassin branch, which is also a classic and should not be missed out in any build because this really significantly bumps our critical damage. So this out of the way, we will go to the second, or maybe the most important node of them all, the Kabbalist with Immortal Offering. This is the bread and butter source of damage we have since Wolcen was released. It was all around, or built all around, these ailment stacks and all those effects. So this should never ever be left out in any build, I would say. And with this node we can bump up the stacks a little bit more. So that's a pretty straightforward and a classic approach to bump up the damage. And we here have the EOS tree, and you know where this is leading to, of course, to those two nodes, which will insta-kill the enemies if they are below a certain threshold of their HP, of their health. So that's a pretty easy way to insta-kill them. Those two items are, let's say, damage buff in, let's say, synergy with our force shield. So as long as we have force shield, we do a little bit more damage. And as you know, we have tons of other force shield synergies here. So if I go to this section, we have the warlock, which with a faith leech. So this replenishes our force shield and should keep it high at all time or even full. So that's the synergy here. And there is another one, which is this node. So we have 30% damage reduction as long as our force shield is full. So that's another force shield synergy at this point. And then on the opposite direction, we have this node, which gives us a higher ailment chance score. I took this. It's not mandatory, but I think it's pretty nice to have. Let's stay here. This is our only, let's say, health income, or let's say our only healing source of healing with the health globes. And there is a passive where we can take them from all of the screen. Yes, this pickup radius plus 15, so we can grab the health globes from all over the screen basically. And I tick this one. This is also optional and not mandatory, so that the health globes also affects our force shield in a positive way. It's not mandatory, but I have it there for experiment reasons. Why not? So we go over to this Time Weaver tree, which is also well known for, let's say, damage mitigation. So the damage is not coming directly to us, it is a little bit delayed, so that's very nice. And of course we have more ailment stacks, which is with the Kabbalist, a very nice synergy to pump out more damage per stack. You know how this works. Okay, what do we have here? Yes, the poison tree, I call it, the plague bringer. So this is all about poison damage and inflicting poison. And this one, as we talked about earlier, is if our let's say minion dice or our summon dice, that it generates a little green globe. If we pick it up, we have 30% more poison damage, not overall damage. I did a little bit of a mistake earlier. And that's another well-known tree. It's the Siege Breaker, and this gives us, of course, more resistances and more things based on the armor type we are wearing. That's pretty straightforward, you know that, and it should not be left out in any build, I would say. And this is a little bit of a two-sided coin, because it gives us a lot of more damage per stack or inexorable point or whatever they call it. It's nice, but at the same time it slows us down, and since I'm a fan of speed, you really have the trade-off of leaving this out and being, let's say, quicker and faster, but have significantly less damage if you don't have the full stacks of that thing. So that's also negotiable. So you get the gist out of it. There are some notes which you should take by all means, like the Kabbalist, for instance, and the Assassin, but others are maybe optional. That's totally up to you. This is just my personal approach for the build, which really works well. And now it is time to give this car a duck score, to see this build in action. Shall we? Okay, let's do a quick run. As you can see, there's no unique item equipped, and I'll just grab a random untainted run. Modifiers, yada yada yada. I don't really care what this is, because we are super cool and we want to have, of course, the Wrath of Sarizel, because it's French. No, it's not. Just kidding. And please keep in mind, this character has level 82, so I'm missing out a few passives and a few other things, but as you can see, it's absolutely nice to play. I have my rage and willpower management, so if I jump into large groups and I crit a lot, you can see that my willpower is rather okay. And here again, I can spam all my stuff. Everything dies rather quickly. I don't have any issue whatsoever. And here is another group. It's really super easy and fun to play without any fancy trial belt or this nice pants where I can basically have a better resource management, but it's fine. We can do things like that. And now I can show you the stun, which is pretty cool. There's this champ or I don't know what, so I will wait, boom, jump in there, and you can see instantly cracked his shield, and there is our untainted. And what I can do, I can basically just push one button. I just need to take care that my willpower is fine, and then I can just, let's say, stand there and do nothing. Look, I'm just pushing 2 buttons and I'll just kill all of the things out there. Now I need to have a zip of my willpower potion. That's absolutely fine. And if you think, oh, this takes way too long, remember this character is only 82. But I think it's pretty awesome. This build really kicks ass without any uniques equipped. If you want, I can showcase a run with all my uniques equipped, and then, oh my god, there is absolutely nothing stopping me. You can be sure of that. So a nice little group here. There is another interesting enemy. Let's jump to him. And I popped his shield because of my Lightbringer. That's very nice. Now I need to have another zip of my willpower potion. Boom, and he's dead. Oh, look at that. Look at this boy. Look at you, you fancy little untainted. But the problem is you will die. Not instantly with a trial belt, but you will die. And I think it doesn't take too long in order to get this done. Boom, he's dead. Oh, I can go to the boss. Let's see if I can jump to him quickly. I hate that. Boom, boom, boom. I want to skip you, guy. 1 willpower bottle is empty, so maybe I kill quickly a few people to get my potion back, because I don't want to be at the boss without any willpower potion left. This would be very stupid. I think that's enough. So boom, we go directly to him, and then it's easy, pretty straightforward. Yes, you can be a bit squishy in boss fights, as you can see. So my tip from the beginning, if you put everything into ferocity, of course you have much higher damage, but you are too squishy and I don't like to die. I just want to stand there and talk to you guys. Boom, he's dead. So this was the run. Let's check out our time. It was 3 minutes 44. Maybe you will say, oh, that's not the best, but hey, level 82 and no unique whatsoever. I think it's a pretty cool build. That's it for the build guide, ladies and gentlemen. I hope it was okay. I have 2 more builds in the pipeline. One is a turret build and a bleeding edge build. I like bleeding edge. So if you like my builds, please consider subscribing. If not, tough luck, and I'll see you in the next one. Good night, take care.